Well, TVU Network still connecting you to the people that you should be meeting right here at MediaTech Africa 2026. This gentleman sitting next to me arrived, and I would like to say that he is a maverick within his industry, in his field, and a maverick certainly to our stand. Peter, you said something about our mics, and you said we should be changing our mics. He bought his own mic with us. Well, with him.
That's correct. I brought, this is the SE Electronics. This is a real punt, a real advert. ENG7. And you know how you know it's a V7?
With the red.
Because of that. In other words, if I use a V7 and I go on stage and somebody says to me, listen, can we substitute that with a black piece of foam? The response is immediately, no, because that's how people know I'm using a V7. So this is the ENG. So when I heard ENG for the first time, I thought it meant engineer.
Yes.
And then somebody came along and corrected me and they said, no. ENG means electronic news gathering. So this is the ENG version of the world famous V7. But I'm not going to use it. I'll use your Sennheiser today. How's that?
Well, this is the man who is around, who's behind Turnkey Music as well as
Turk Music Technologies, yeah.
That's two different companies. So let's break them down for someone at home to understand.
So Turk Music Technologies, I wear two caps. Turk Music Technologies is my distribution hat. Every single one of the brands that you would find on our stand at MediaTech are brands that we represent for Southern Africa, as well as looking into expansion into the African continent. A lot of our brands are really high-end, industry-standard technology brands, and we've created a retail division which allows the public in general to have direct access to the brands we represent under the umbrella Turnkey Music and Multimedia. But more so, if we were to fine-tune the actual name, we call ourselves the Music Producer Store. Because if you are a music producer in South Africa, or you are thinking about becoming a music producer, and all that entails, whether it's just having some DJ decks or setting up a little home recording studio, like Suites for Heaven are for people into suites, the Music Producer Store is the store for music producers. So you can go to stores around South Africa if you're looking for guitars and drums and musical instruments, and there's a variety and selection of them.
Yeah.
But if you are a music producer, in fact, not only for South Africa, I can honestly say, and I've visited a lot of countries, there is not another store like what the Music Producer Store represents anywhere else.
Let's talk about that Music Producer Store, the brands that are present within there. Just how hard or how easy was it selecting the brands that you represent?
Well,
you seem very strict.
Yeah, well, without giving my age away, when we started in the industry, the brands that we have available to us today were quite limited then. So it was actually quite easy for us to identify the brands that we wanted to be associated with. Some of the brands, and in fact many of the brands that we now represent today that are now well established and regarded as industry standards, were brands that were literally introduced often out of somebody's garage. And when they first came to a trade show, they would have a 1x1 square meter space, and they would put their first product on there. So those are the brands that we brought back. One of them is a very well-known brand. It's called Presonus. And then the other brands that we represent came to us as industry standard brands, and without patting ourselves too much on the back, we were approached by the brands overseas due to our reputation and asked would we be interested in representing them. And obviously one has to look at all the other brands we do and find out if the brands that we're going to bring in are suitable for not only our company, but are also suitable for the South African market.
You say our company now because obviously it's expanded, you've employed people, so you've kind of like decided and allowed yourself to share it with people. But let's take it back to the beginning. Obviously, because it is somewhat really interlinked to your name, which is who you are and who you identify as. Take us through your love for music, your love for sound.
Well, that's actually a very interesting story. So I actually grew up to be I was supposed to be a professional tennis player.
Okay.
And like
Wimbledon is currently
there you go, yeah. So like all professional sportsmen, your parents will come to you and they'll say to you, well, you know, Peter, you need to have something to fall back on, should things not go according to plan. And I studied a marketing degree and an advertising degree, And when I did not become a professional tennis player, I actually worked for a German company for a year, returned to South Africa, and as a non-musician, I had to find something in, at that stage, what was regarded as the family business. I had to find something that I was comfortable with. And what I became is I actually became a recording studio consultant. And that statement, fake it before you make it, or fake it until you make it, was very true. I absolutely would knock on studio doors, and in those days we were still working on reel-to-reels, on items that were huge, on massive consoles, and I literally became a sponge. All the studios that I visited, I literally just learned. And when I wasn't learning from the engineers in the actual studios themselves, I was reading magazines at that stage. We didn't have internet, and our go-to was Mix magazine, and another one that still exists today called Sound on Sound. So anybody involved in the studio industry at that stage used to literally fight over the latest edition of Sound on Sound as it came through from Astoral Books and was made available in places like CNA and that type of thing. Yeah. So that's how it all started. Yeah.
So with that then, I think we think of sound as broadcasters. We don't necessarily consider that the sound that we use on radio and the sound that we use on television and the music that we hear, that sound is not produced all in the same way. If you were to differentiate between the different mediums, how would you do so?
Well, I think I'm going to just change that up a little bit. So in other words, if you are watching a television program or watching a movie, all right, where there's a visual medium and an audio visual. So what we normally found is that 90% of the budgets for these productions was going into the visual side, the cameras. But then I used to say to people, well, hang on a second, if you're spending so little money on the audio side, let's just do a little experiment. Okay, you want to watch a horror movie. So put the horror movie up on the screen and turn the sound off. How scary is that movie?
Nothing.
It's not scary at all.
We're smiling through that thing.
That's it. So what that tells you is that audio is equally, if not in some cases, even more important than the visual content. So I think today, the actual technology that's available to us is almost by default of high enough quality to be able to be used in pretty much anything. Even if you take, for example, a smartphone, and I don't even plug in any type of external audio device. If I just hold this to my mouth and talk. In fact, most of the content I create, I'm naughty, because most of the content I create, I literally just record directly onto the actual, without a mic, I record directly onto the phone itself. In fact, when I use a mic, I get distracted by the mic and how it's actually changing the voice and my tone, etc., etc. So, you know, one of the things we do, and we get approached all the time by it, I mean, I talk about the South African market is full of beat makers. Every single young dude wants to be a beat maker. And they come to us and they say, well, you know, how do I start? Is it too expensive? And today, you can actually buy a studio in the box or a recording pack that includes a really high-end audio interface, which is the device you use to take that analog signal, which interprets it into a digital signal. It comes with a really nice pair of recording studio headphones. It comes with a really nice recording studio microphone. And it comes with the software. In other words, what I'm saying is that you can take this box now, you can go home now, you can connect it to your computer, your phone, or your iPad. You can make a recording, and you can load it up onto the cloud tonight, and you could have some dude sitting in Los Angeles who's going through and listening to different genres and styles in music and saying, well, hang on a second, I'm actually making a movie, and I require this. And suddenly you get an email that pops up on your phone, and it's this dude sitting in Los Angeles saying, listen, I've just listened to what you've recorded. You know, can I pay you $5,000 to use it? So the technology that we have available today has just opened up a world of possibilities and creative possibilities. And if we talk specifically about the South African market, there's also an understanding is that a lot of guys that play and produce today don't play a musical instrument.
AI has come into effect, and how is that affecting the industry?
Not even with AI. I mean, the products that we have today, in other words, the software we have today, we call them digital audio workstations,
Okay.
are supplied fully loaded with content. So as long as I've got an ear and I can actually kind of figure out whether it's a good or bad beat, and even that is not necessarily even required because you have something called quantize. So I can create a rhythm and it can be all out of whack, and I can then hit this quantize button and I can say I want it to sound like country, or I want it to sound like rock, or I want it to sound like hip-hop or R&B, and it'll automatically take what I've just done and it'll shuffle it around so that it suits that particular genre. So traditionally speaking, think about it. If you wanted to make a recording as an artist, you would have had to go to a recording studio, and you would have had to record using instruments.
Yes.
Nowadays,
Every instrument one by one.
one by one onto a different track.
Yes.
That's it. Nowadays, pretty much every single instrument that is available to us has become a virtual instrument. And over and above that, they've actually taken that virtual instrument and they've actually made recordings, thousands and thousands and thousands of recordings where that instrument's used, and you can basically take that recording and you can drag it onto tracks. You can move it around. You can then take, all right, for example, electric guitar. Now I'm going to put a bass. Now I want some percussion, etc., etc. Push play. Have a listen to it. Sounds cool. Doesn't sound so great. Change it around. So again, I'm going back to it, that the actual possibilities are limitless. And that is, to some extent, there's pros to it.
I was about to say we need to go through the pros and cons, because obviously with the digital age coming in, and we have to embrace it at some point, right? It is scary, but what are the pros then and what are the cons with the times that we're moving into?
Well, the pros are that it now becomes so much easier for people to make music. So
And
that's
anyone can do
that. Literally anybody can do it. And the con is that because it's become so easy to make beats or to make music, it actually gives people an excuse or a reason not to actually really learn the art of musicianship.
Okay.
So many years ago, we had two components to my retail division. And one was called Turk Interactive, or Turnkey Interactive, and the other one was music. And music targeted the guys out there that were traditional musicians. And we wanted them, because traditional musicians were terrified of technology. This was something really foreign to them. So we wanted to then take them from being a musician, and we wanted to show them how easy it was to use technology to actually record themselves. And think about it, as a musician, every musician dreams of hearing themselves recorded, and recorded professionally.
100%.
And 20 years ago, if I wanted to do that, I would have had to have booked studio time, session time, and pay at a studio on an hourly rate. So that was targeting that type of musician. Then, because we were dealing with so many what I call mouse musicians, and a mouse musician is a guy who makes music moving the mouse around, all right? What we wanted to do with them is we wanted to introduce them to an instrument. So what happens is a guy's got his recording studio and he's using all the wonderful technology, and every single time he actually wants, for example, somebody to come in and actually play a real guitar, he's got to get somebody in from out and he's going to pay them. And at some point in time, I wanted those guys to turn around and say, but hang on a second, I don't want to pay anybody else now to actually come in and play a guitar. I want to play the guitar myself. And that, to some extent, would then force them to go out and to pick up an instrument and how to actually use the instrument himself to make music. Nowadays, those two different market segments have kind of merged.
But then, Peter, does it not then mean that the way in which music is moving, obviously talking about AI and how technology then, live events will become more valued?
Absolutely. So we're just talking a little bit about AI. Okay, so I represent a company called IK Multimedia.
Okay.
They have a software program called Revoice. Okay. So think about this. I bring up on my screen a picture of 20 vocalists. 10 are male, 10 are female.
Are these real vocalists?
They're AI vocalists.
Oh, okay.
Yes. No, so they're AI vocalists, and they're also real.
Okay.
Because some musicians are now selling their voices
In AI.
to AI.
Oh.
So I can come along and say, right, I can sing something, and then I can say, all right, that's fine, but I'd like that guy, and it says their description, this is Jean-Luc, and he is very well known for R&B, hip-hop, etc., etc. So it gives you a biography of what his speciality is. This is Marie, and her speciality is that, and then I can say, all right, well, let me take what I've just recorded, and let me just click on him. And immediately he's singing my vocal for me. And I click on Marie, and she's singing my vocal for me. And then I think to myself, well, hang on a second, Jean-Luc and Marie wouldn't sound bad as a duet. Let me click on both of them, click, click. And before I realize that I've got this duet.
Yes.
So that is artificial AI vocalists. But now, if Madonna decided she's getting out of the industry, but she still needs to make some revenue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell my voice as Madonna to this technology, and everybody coming after me can actually use my voice to do their recordings with. So this is kind of the other thing is, so you see this microphone, or let's say you take a brand of microphone like an AKG or a Neumann, okay, and you say to yourself, all right, I can actually go out and I can buy this microphone. Okay? And this microphone on its own has its own unique sounds. But when I buy this microphone, I get a software program that emulates the best recording studio microphones in the world. So I'm buying one, but I'm getting 35 other ones for free. So then I can say, all right, I've recorded my vocal with this particular microphone, but I wouldn't mind hearing how I would sound through an AKG C414 or a Neumann a U87. That's kind of where we are going. So going back to what you said, one, producers are going to have to reinvent themselves like never before. They're going to have to bring something to the party that at this stage I don't actually think has been thought of yet in terms of out-of-the-box thinking. And then, yes, live performances, because that's one thing, and I'm going to rephrase that, is that for a band to go and perform on stage, but hang on a second, what about if I now go and get a hologram of artists? I want to go see Elvis Presley perform, or I want to see Michael Jackson perform. What do? I go to a show, and it's got a hologram of Michael Jackson and a hologram of Elvis Presley, and I sit there and I experience the most incredible live show, but it's a hologram of these artists that are no longer with us. Peebo Bryson just passed. I never got to see him perform. Luther Vandross, I never got to see him perform, but now I can go and I can watch them in this incredible auditorium with all the fireworks and all the extravaganza. So even live musicians who are still with us today, they themselves are going to have to rethink how they do things.
It becomes scary.
Scary. It just means that everybody has to up their game massively.
So then, I guess then the equipment side, they're really going to, that's where they cash in for real. And that's where the evolution and where the industry is going. With creating all of this equipment that will be able to be utilized by people who are doing various artificial things.
Yeah, so obviously you got certain equipment that to some extent still cannot be replaced. So if we're talking about speakers, lighting and all of that, can't necessarily be replaced. But one has to then concern yourself about those things that actually then replicate or duplicate what human beings would have done, all right? And as a result of that, possibly do a better job. Don't have to be paid, all right? And that side of things gets excluded. And at this particular point in time, I can tell you now, even though you're going to get these guys out there who are telling you, I know what AI is going to do, I know how it's going to impact the industry, we still don't have a good enough crystal ball to tell us how this whole thing is going to actually pan out. So from my perspective, obviously I represent brands, and I look to the brands I represent, and I'm keeping a very keen and close eye on the brands and in terms of what they are doing around the AI platform.
Your favorite or the best sound experience you've ever had? Where was it and what was it?
Well, I'm a how would I put it? I'm an R&B fan. My best experience from a sound perspective, and this goes back quite some time ago. I was very lucky in 1989. All right.
I know he looks 25.
Yeah, I was actually able to. I actually attended an an original Earth, Wind and Fire concert in the Olympic Halle, which is the Olympic Stadium in Munich, Germany, and that for me was. I mean, I've been very fortunate. I actually have to some extent, a personal relationship with Mr. George Benson, and so in the industry that I'm in, I travel to Los Angeles every single year, and there we do have an opportunity to rub shoulders with some of the celebs. Yeah.
And finally, before I let you go, I do need to know, why is it important for Turnkey Music to be present today?
Oh, okay. So the last time the show was held was before COVID.
Yes.
And I thought, I've met two types of customers here.
Okay.
The first customer I've met are people that already know us and know us well. So when I say, this is who we are, I know you guys, I know who works for you, I know where to find you, and so on and so on. And that's great. We have this opportunity to touch base, to build a relationship. But equally so, I'm bumped into people that the last time I saw was many, many years ago. In fact, the last time I saw them was at MediaTech.
The one at the Dome.
At the Dome, that's correct. And I've also bumped into people that I saw 20 years ago. All right. And I've actually had an opportunity to interact with people who've come from Port Elizabeth, East London, Cape Town, Namibia, Zimbabwe. And it takes an event like this to get those guys here.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here, yeah.
So connection, collaboration, bringing
That's
it all together for the love of sound, the love of music.
Yeah.
As much as we're talking about it, scared about what the possibilities do hold, but it's also really exciting to explore. All of that taking place right here at MediaTech Africa 2026. As you know, TVU Networks, we're on the ground. It's not just me. Josh is always also here. We're going to be taking a walk, right? And we're going to be showing you. We'll possibly also make a stop at Peter's store.